Before we get into it, I just want to say thank you to all the support we've had over the years since we've started this show. It's been such a crazy journey, and we wouldn't continue to do this if it wasn't for all the support and all the friends we've made from doing this show. It's been awesome. So probably close to a year ago, we decided to bring out a Patreon page for the podcast. And with it, we said we wanted to start doing some bonus content. We've had little bits and pieces of it drop into the Patreon feed, and then we had the big skill contest that was early release. I'm finally excited to bring something that I've wanted to do for months. I just haven't had the time, but now I want to make it a more regular thing. So first things first, this episode is brought to you by all of our Patreon supporters, our past, present, and future. I want to thank you guys. This is the first episode of a new series, I suppose you can call it. And the name I think I'm going to go with is OSRS Rambles. So a quick description of what to expect from this episode and going forward. It's just sitting down with a guest, having a one-on-one conversation, but really the overhead topic being RuneScape and our experiences with it, what we think of the current game, anything and everything to do with RuneScape. So my guest today is Magpie. If you are familiar with the show and you hang out in our Discord or clan chat, then he's probably a familiar face to you. He's a friend of the show and has helped me host a couple events in the past, as well as participated in some. He was my co-host for the Connect 4 tournament, and he was the winner for our old school RuneScape trivia, which is what really got me the idea of bringing him on as a guest. He knew so much about the game and talked about how he contributed to the wiki. And after that, we started talking more regularly, and he had a pretty interesting life in his RuneScape career as well. So without further ado, let's get right into it. My guest, Magpie. So here we are with the very first installment of, I probably should have came up with a name beforehand. I messaged in the Discord about coming up with a name for this thing, and we've got a bunch of ideas, but I kind of like one of your ideas, the Skulled Up.
Oh yeah, go for it if you want.
I'm thinking of that or Wild Talks. I'm not too sure. This is really pointless to have on it because it's already going to be named by the time I put this out. But the whole idea of this was to have kind of like bonus episodes where I get to talk to someone one-on-one about RuneScape stuff in general, kind of like the Joe Rogan experience, but instead of how he talks like whatever the hell he talks about, this is going to be mostly focused on RuneScape. I think it would be cool because most people grown up with RuneScape, so we started playing it. Like I started playing it when I was, I don't know, like 10 years old. How old were you when you got into it?
The first time was probably I was 8 years old. It didn't really stick. And then I really got into it. Yeah, roughly when I was 10, actually 10, 11.
Oh, so you played it when you were like younger, then quit for a couple years and then came back to it.
Yeah, a couple times. I remember I just made an account and just wanted to get into the cooking guild. I didn't do it on that first account. I remember I was fucking pissed. I just wanted to like make pizza or something, make pie.
That's yeah, it's weird how we get these weird little goals like that. So before we get into this though, but like we all played it when we were kids. We've grown up. We're all different people now with interesting backgrounds. I thought it'd be fun to talk to each different people and have to hear the RuneScape story, I guess you could say. So of course I'm with Magpie, who is a friend of the show, and you helped host the Connect 4 tournament way back.
Yeah. Which
is kind of when I got like the idea of doing this, figured have you on as the first guest. That's like a great way to start it off. And we've talked a bunch before, so we know each other, and we've played RuneScape for a while now. But yeah, anyways, back to the cooking guild thing you were saying, because I remember when I was a kid, I'd only get to play it every other weekend because my parents were divorced. Mom didn't have a computer, but my dad did, so I only got to play RuneScape on every other weekend. And I remember wanting to get into the crafting guild so badly. And I
the brown apron.
Yeah. And then anyways, I got to the crafting guild and I was like really let down because I was like, oh, there's really not a whole lot to do here.
All you do is click shit.
Yeah, you click shit. There's no bang. The Karamja is close, not Karamja. Alcarad is way closer to gold ore. You know what I mean? Having to run all the way back to Falador because they didn't have a bank when it first started. So
fucking power creep.
Yeah, no kidding. Now we have caves that teleport you right there. Weird. But did you get to did you get to the cooking guild?
Not on my first account, no. But when I came back and I really sunk into it, I remember I got 32 cooking or whatever it was, and then I got up to the doors, West Barrock. I like walked past, was like, shit, this is the time. I click open, and it turns out you need a fucking chef's hat. And now I was like,
Ooh.
okay, god damn it, now I need to go find a hat. And there was no GE back then, so I just like walked around for an hour trying to buy a hat off someone. Found someone selling a girlfriend, but not a hat, unfortunately. But that's what it was like back in the day, the Wild
The
West.
girlfriends are so common. What the hell's going on?
No, but eventually I made it in, and it was like one of those moments.
Do you remember if you were like let down or anything?
Yeah, I remember. It's just like one of those things where you're like, breathe it in, like, fuck yeah. Well, now what?
Yeah.
Okay. Like that
that's
South
when you
Park
learn what
can actually play the game. Yeah.
You learned what kind of monster this game is.
Yeah.
Just like, okay, off to the next thing.
The next big grind.
So that's interesting. Do you remember how you got into RuneScape? Like how you discovered it? Like, how did you get into it? Like, how did you hear about it when you were like 8 years old or whatever? And then what after that, what also brought you back? It went 2 years later.
So I remember a friend of mine told me about it in school during recess. And I remember like that day we had somebody come into our school and talk about Terry Fox.
Oh, Terry Fox, right.
Yes, he's big in Canada. For some reason they like decided to talk about him to us, and they're like selling his book and stuff, and pawning off his book onto like us kids and shit. I guess silver bad. But I went home and my first account was actually called like something related to Terry Fox. I remember that.
Nice.
And then because a friend told me there's this game, it's really cool, you do whatever you want, your medieval fantasy, blah blah blah. And then like a couple years later, I guess I was just bored, found it online again. And this time like I had a couple friends in school and we started playing it together. And the big thing that really kept me in, hooked me in, was actually getting membership. Everyone's like, it's a rite of passage kind of thing when you like beg your mom for membership and you're like, come on, mom, please
mail
mom.
that check in.
Yeah, exactly. And she was like, are they going to steal our account? You're going to steal our credit card? I'm like, no, that's not how it works, mom. This is back in like, my parents hadn't really used the internet too much.
Yeah, so they thought viruses came from the game itself.
Oh yeah, dude, they thought everything. They're like, this game is going to steal our credit card details and it's going to corrupt your brain. It's going to shoot pornographic brain waves into your mental imaging and shit.
That's why society is the way it is today.
Man,
RuneScape.
That's too true, yeah. But yeah, I mean, I got into it, the social element, and now that I've come back into it, like, I realized quickly how important it was to have a social element. There's no point playing the game if you have no one to share your accomplishments with, if you have no one to talk shit to.
Yeah.
So it is an MMORPG. I think that's one of the things that, like, I hope more people get in the mindset of like that social element that is what keeps us in the game. Unless you're an Iron Man, which, I mean, they can. That's another story.
Yeah, we don't discuss Iron Man here.
They can stand alone. Just stand as far away from me as possible.
So, do you notice a big difference of like the social element back then versus today?
Oh yeah, 100%. And honestly, it was kind of like one of the things that I hope the game rediscovers, not just Jagex, not just the players, but both, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Because Jagex always say, they listen to the community and stuff, and the community kind of has to change their mindset because it's always been, XP gains and stuff. We're a little bit older now. We're more, results driven and stuff. But back then it was just shoot the shit, talk to somebody at like Drainer Bank Willows for an hour, exchange friends, ask them where they live, and then ask them if they really were a girl and hope they said yes. But
it's weird. Did you wait? I don't mean to get off track, but did you ever encounter like getting catfished, I guess, back in the day?
Not really. I remember I once got reported on one of my earliest accounts because I typed looking for hot GF. They
Uh-oh.
got me. The feds got me. That was
Shit.
the only mark. And I remember I was so young. I sent a letter. Like you could appeal the ban or whatever. You could. It wasn't even a ban. They didn't even give me a mute. They just like warned me, I think. But I was so scared. I like sent a letter to Mr. Jagex telling him how sorry I was. So that gives you a time frame of like how big the change has been in terms
You
of the
know what? That's
mindset.
I want to ask someone back then, like, how often did you receive letters from kids being like, please unban me? Because
Yeah,
I
like
could
the
I
Gower brothers.
yeah, I could see that being a thing where it's like once a week they go to the mailbox, there's like 10 letters there, and they're just like, oh my God. Or like writing and
Imagine,
being like, I got scammed.
all of a sudden the dude who like owned the very first OG bot farm would just keep sending letters with intentionally jumbled writing and stuff.
The
Please,
first
Jagex.
the first DDoSing.
Oh shit.
We can't get mail anymore. They're gonna shut off the electric because we can't pay off the bill because we just don't get it.
We can't even pay our bills because they keep getting muddled up with all these kids' letters. Damn.
God damn. So back when you got into RuneScape, were you like were you into other video games as well?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I grew up playing video games. Like, um, they've always been big for me.
A gamer at
Obviously,
heart.
old school has always been like my go-to. But yeah, you could call me an epic gamer. Like,
Sick.
oh yeah, dude. So I grew up with a PS1, Crash Team Racing, one of my childhood favorites, and then San Andreas. I was more of a PS like 1, 2, 3 kind of guy. I
Hmm.
never really had an Xbox, but yeah, I've always liked games. I've always liked different games. My favorite kind is, drifted from time to time. Like it used to be a lot of action back when I was a kid, sports. Now it's like strategy, simulation. I like those Sims, like City Skylines. I've
Great game. I
mellowed
love
out
that
a little
game.
bit. Yeah. No Man's
Yeah.
Sky, I know we've talked about before. That's a big one for me as well.
Yeah, I like that game a lot, and this is the problem with RuneScape is I want to sit down and play other games, but I'm always just like, well, I'm gonna jump on RuneScape, and the thing is because it's like such a social game, and like just coming on being able to talk with you and like other people in the game, it's like other games feel so much more isolating.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess because they kind of are, right? But
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it is really easy to get lost in it, but we're still, I mean, RuneScape is an MMO. Like, it's still supposedly a massively multiplayer online role playing game. And so people get caught up in the grind and stuff. I
yeah,
miss some of that, like, social element that we had back then. I mean, going back to what we were talking about. I mean, I remember, did you ever go to those specialty player owned house, like specific player owned house builds back in the day?
I went to like house parties. I'm not sure what you mean by like specialty builds though.
Like, I remember going to a hotel, like on the old school, or back then it was just, the RuneScape forums. You'd go to the
Yeah,
services section and people would have like hotels and you'd go into their POH. You'd never see it today because it's like efficiency scape over
such a waste of
everything,
time.
Exactly. But it's like you go in and it's just, there are no portal chambers, obviously no pools, nothing like that. It's just all like bedrooms and then like the
Mm.
lounge and a quote unquote kitchen. And people would have to like wear uniforms and stuff. You had a fully staffed kitchen, you had room service. You'd have to type in the CC like room service, but then you couldn't type anything else because the
Oh no
room service
shit.
guy would like walk up to you, knock on your door. You'd like pay like 10K for like a 15-minute spell in one of the rooms, and you had like a deluxe room and stuff.
Huh.
Like that's the kind of shit that I wish we still had. Like I wish they hadn't ruined the idea of like more player-owned house customization by throwing it under partnerships.
Yeah, I know what you mean about that, and I think we'll talk about more of that as well. But yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun. I didn't realize that was a thing, but I know what you mean. Where like Like I feel like the social element is there, and the fact that like in the clan chat, I'm always talking with people, and if I'm AFKing, I can have a conversation. It's just matter of time until it becomes a conversation I don't want to have anymore.
Yeah.
But like the fun things that like you're talking about, where you're like you waste a whole evening, you don't gain any money, you don't gain any experience, you're just there for the fun. You don't. Yeah, that doesn't really happen as much. Even Castle Wars, right? It's for the most part, it's kind of dead.
Yeah, exactly. I just think, it's a combination of things. We're older now, so we have more technology. So
Yeah.
back then, being social was just, chilling, chopping trees together. Now it's like, let's go do some bosses over Discord because we all have voice chat now. And,
Yeah. Yeah.
our parents aren't living in the same household. We don't have to like be quiet when we play and stuff, like keep the lights off,
Yeah. Now it's like
blind ourselves.
wives and
Yeah.
girlfriends and kids. It seems like.
Yeah. It used to
But
be like, "Hey Jim, how was your weekend?" Oh, fucking Miss Grundy gave me so much work. And now it's like, "Hey Jim, how's your weekend?" Oh, the boss gave me overtime.
yeah,
So things
making it
never
annoying.
change.
It sucks. Yeah, it's just a cycle, I suppose.
Damn, you're gonna get me down on this cycle talk, dude.
Anyways, back to the play around houses.
Quick pivot.
I do miss those like the house parties, and I don't know. I would love to have an update to construction where it added more to the dungeon.
Yeah.
It's got shit. Okay, this is what's weird. It has stuff straight up to level 99, but I think it was probably like about a year ago. I think I was on the wiki and I was looking up construction stuff, and I guess so little people are actually building dungeons that parts of the dungeon, like some of the monsters and stuff, just weren't on the wiki, which is weird because I
Mm,
just assumed everything would be on the wiki.
yeah. I mean, it goes to show you, like, the wiki is held up as like the Bible of the game, but just like everything, it's a reflection of the community. And you look at the most updated pages and stuff. You have a lot of things that are like still underdeveloped. Like I know you're a big lore junkie. From what I remember,
Well,
like
I've been
back
getting
when
into it, but
I
yeah.
started, back when I got into RuneScape the first time as a kid, each page had its own lore section because like so many people were interested in lore that people kept updating the lore sections, and now it's like maybe for a big boss or two, like they have a sentence or two at the end talking about the lore. Like Verzik doesn't have a lore section anymore. Like I
Oh
remember I
yeah,
would spend
yeah.
hours reading that stuff, like reading about the Fifth Age and stuff. And now it's up to like your podcast really to fill us in on lore, like the events around Zaya and stuff. They're still in the game. They're just not in the wiki because, like you said, it's just to reflect like just like the dungeon thing. There's so much that we choose not to put in there, and I guess it's just like a matter of volunteers and people who are interested.
Yeah, like here's an example. If you go on the wiki and you go into the dungeon
Yeah,
page, if you go down to guards, so you can like pay to have monsters in your dungeon that people can fight.
yeah,
It goes all the way up to hellhounds, but they're missing the steel dragon, which is the next level after hellhounds. So that's not added into it, which is weird. I'm not sure why that's not even in it. And on top of that, since Dragon Slayer 2 came out, you can now have rune dragons in your dungeon, which I didn't even know. That
yeah.
costs 25 mil. But those aren't even added into the wiki page. So maybe I should
Truth,
edit it
yeah.
later. I don't know how to do any of that stuff, but
I can get it added at some point. Like I'll
and actually
probably
it's a great segue. So I remember we talked before. We had like a trivia night, and you were nailing every question. You were
yeah.
destroying, and you said it's because you used to be really active on the wiki and like adding stuff.
Yeah, way back in the old wiki and stuff, yeah.
Yeah. So did you? Why did you do that? Was it just something for fun?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it was like the natural progression. Like I said, I just like loved reading the lore and reading about the game and stuff. Like I really like world building and stuff. I've never played Dungeons and Dragons. I'd love to give it a shot, but like I loved reading about the world and as a kid, growing up, I wanted to escape into like another reality. I guess that's why fantasy is always big for kids.
Yeah.
Um, and so I kept reading into each page, and there were times like I'd go back to pages and I'd be like, wait, that's wrong, huh? And then I would like keep coming back to it, and then I'd say someone still hasn't changed that. Wow. And then eventually it was like, well, damn, maybe I should just do it. Yeah, screw it. And I just like made an account, and then I would stay logged in. And then it was a matter of like, it's so convenient to just like, oh, this is wrong, or oh, this needs expanding on. Like, I'll just press edit and type in what I know. And
Mm.
I mean, I used to like write stories as a kid. I always liked adding shit like that. So I always found it super fun. I'm weird. I was like a massive nerd like that. But to me,
So
it
you
was
just
just
like
a
to
matter
edit.
of,
It was like
yeah, like
satisfying to edit.
it was not really like having my name on there, but just like the feeling of contributing to something bigger. And again, I mean,
Mm.
like the feeling of being able to add my knowledge into something and like help add to this pool of knowledge. So I mean,
Yeah.
like, you know that the Rune Dragon costs 25 mil. You know that like it's unlocked at 99 or whatever. Now all you need to do is like know the experience and the combat level, and maybe grab a screenshot of the Rune Dragon, and you can stick it in the section for yourself, and then you'd be putting in your own knowledge into there, like,
I can
and
definitely
you'd
see the
be.
appeal because there are a
Mhm.
few times where I've been going through a quest and the way they described it, I felt was super confusing because it didn't make sense to me.
Yeah,
And so I would edit it just to make it was more straightforward. Or I'd be like, they'd tell you to go this way is the fastest way. And I'd be like, well, no, you could use the glory teleport, for instance, and
yeah.
nobody there. Um,
At least it's better than Slayer music. Go east, except it's, like, cameras facing south. Sucks.
yeah. I'll say though, he helped me a lot through Morning's End Part 2. Let's see.
You better help us for
Yeah.
Son
Are
of the
you
Elves, baby.
so let's just segue straight. Is it a good segue if I make it clear that hey, let's segue to the next part?
I think it diminishes a little bit,
Yeah,
but
it would have been
as
so
long as
much
we
more
go over
smoother.
it, we're doing the exact opposite by lingering on it, I feel like. But
Yeah, drawing attention to it. That's fine. We'll edit it out and post. All right, Song of the Elves. It's coming out on Thursday. Hopefully this will be out before it comes out, but if not, you can listen to the what is it, foreshadowing before the storm.
yeah, the calm before the storm.
Yeah, perfect. Is that something you're excited for? Are you gonna do it day one?
Oh yeah, 100%. I'm going to be in there hating my life trying to do the light puzzle, and then I'd like to be able to participate in the whole speedrun competition that they've got for the first 2 weeks
Yeah, right.
for the gauntlet. First person, or not the first person, but the person who registers the fastest time in the first 2 weeks. I don't know how difficult it's going to be. We know the content is probably going to be a little bit tough, but the thing is, like, a lot of these guys are going to be in like their own clans, their own like high level communities in PVM clans, and they're probably just going to keep what they know to themselves, really.
Yeah, yeah. That's totally true.
But super excited. It's going to be super fun. I'm going to hop on with a bunch of buddies, and we're going to tinker around, see what we can do. Volcano seems like a fun little activity, just a skilling boss.
And
But
yeah, you have some. Was it rune crafting based? Is that the idea?
yeah, mining, rune crafting, just blow shit
Mining
up.
and rune crafting. Is
Fast
there
and
and then
furious.
there's the gauntlet as well. Is there anything you're not? Is there anything that you're like not a huge fan of that's coming with the whole Song of the Elves update?
Um, let's see. I mean, I don't really think the blade needs to come into the game, the blade of Saldor, because
Right. Yeah.
like thinking back on it, we had the whip come out obviously in the like when the inception, and then they came out with the tentacle, which was a sync for whips because everybody rushed Abyssal Whip so early. And then for Theater
True.
of Blood, they pulled the rapier, which was stronger than the tentacle, and a big part of that was don't worry because you'll still need the tentacle because it's going to be so expensive and it's a stab weapon. You
Yeah.
still need
That's
the
right.
tentacle for like any kind of slash weapon stuff. But then they came out with the blade, and the pull blog was like, well, it's going to be like the rapier, except it's going to be a slash weapon. And you see there, it's like maybe a little bit of power creep where did we really need another slash weapon considering you justified the rapier being stronger than the tentacle by saying it wasn't a slash weapon?
Yeah. It's weird. It's kind of like they want to bring new weapon, but they don't want it. they're too afraid of it being voted no, so they don't want to outright say it's a new best in slot. So they're just like, well, it's not. It's on par with the other best in slot weapon.
Yeah. I
And
mean,
you're just like,
technically,
well,
the scythe is still probably the best in slot for Slash, but it's just a
yeah.
matter of. It also doesn't really seem like they can pull anything out of the bag in terms of fun rewards or cool content other than best in slots anymore, which I hope they can quickly rectify, because next thing you know, they're going to come out with a new best in slot crush weapon, which we saw with the new Forthos dungeon with
Yeah.
the Sarachnis boss.
Yeah, what is it? Best in slot for one-handed crush?
Yeah. I can see that they're running out of like holes to fill in, where it was like, okay, it's not the best in slot for crush, it's best in slot for one-handed crush. Okay, well now we don't have that. Maybe we need a new best in slot for what's next. I mean, two-handed stab. That's honestly, that probably would be my guess. Like a year down the line, when they pull a best in slot two-handed stab weapon.
Yeah. Yeah, they
The
could. I'm trying to
Doctor's
think.
Needle, Raid 3, to the doc.
Sweet. So do you think they're moving too fast with weapons and armor upgrades? Or is it just the way they're doing it?
I think, a little bit of power creep is good.
Yeah, I feel like you kind of need it or people get bored.
Of course, yeah. It's just a matter of finding the right balance. Oh, sorry. Finding the right balance of just like, how do you put new content in the game that people want to do? The way you do that is by putting in enticing rewards. And the rewards are enticing because they're either cool as hell cosmetics, especially if they're untradeable, or best in slot. And it seems like that's, the tired cliche of just like, oh, not enough people are doing this. Screw it, let's give it a pet. Let's give it like a best in slot.
Yeah.
Maybe that, like, it's just a matter if they're addressing the symptoms, not the disease kind of thing, I guess, where it's like they're trying to plaster over the issue. And the issue isn't that we need more best in slots for content. It's that we need to figure out a way to get the players to enjoy content without making the reward the big thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, that's true. It's almost like they need to find they keep looking for these niches to fill in with weapons, but it's almost like they need to step back. I don't even know how you would do it, but maybe they need to step back and think of a solution that gives them all these, maybe more things to bring into the game that aren't, I don't know. I have no idea.
Yeah,
Like even just
it's
talking
definitely
about it, I'm like, I can see the problems with it. So
and here's the thing: is I'm generally on board with what Jagex do. I would generally say I'm like a fan of what they do. I sympathize a lot with some of the issues they have to face. I know this community, it's unique to say the least, but a lot of times I think, I can see both sides, and I can see what Jagex are struggling to do just because of the way the game's going and, how they need to grow the game. But that's, the big thing for them seems to be like growing the game. I think there are some big issues that need to be fixed for them to keep doing that in a healthy way.
yeah, no, that makes sense because it does seem like they slap band-aids on things. They don't look long term, and it kind of brings us to a problem that, I mean, it's kind of, I don't even think it's solved. It's just put on hold for now, which was the whole microtransaction, the partnerships, I should say. And a lot of
Oh
people
yeah.
had a microtransaction scare. What was your stance on that? Were you on board? Like, did you agree with the pushback with it, or did you think the community overreacted?
I don't think the community. I mean, without the context of if you didn't play the game and you had no idea what this game was, and you just said there were a bunch of like grown ass people who were flipping out over a developer adding a practice and saying that it won't like tumble into something else, you'd be like, well, what's the big deal? They said it wouldn't happen, etc. But we know for a fact that that's exactly what happened to RuneScape 3. We have that precedent. And they said mod MMG, I mean, you could still track down like the images of his official like blog post saying, this won't change XP rates, or this won't like change the gameplay. It'll just be cosmetics, etc. The problem is it's, once you get that first hit, once you get that first taste of microtransactions, there's no stopping. Like, and I think that's
Chase
what
the dragon.
exactly. And then they just got to keep finding them veins. We've tapped into the XP. Now we need to find, GP, lucky, golden armor or whatever they have. But
yeah. And
yeah,
it's
I don't know.
rough because I don't think them wanting to bring partnerships is like super out of line. But because like the reason I say that is like every game that I play and have played in the past, I played a lot of MMOs. They all
Yeah,
have some sort of microtransactions in the game. Like
yeah.
I can't think. Are you a big I wanted to ask you this earlier, but do you play a lot of MMOs, or was RuneScape your first
RuneScape was my
MMORPG?
first, and like honestly, it's the only one that's sunk in. I guess nothing else has like captured the MMO feeling. Like I played, I gave just earlier this year, I guess. Shit, like I gave Elder Scrolls Online a shot with a buddy.
Mm,
I guess I could see why microtransactions are a thing. As sad as it is, I don't like them. I wish they were gone, and I wish um, we could collectively find a way to move on from them in terms of video games as a whole. But I see what you mean when it comes to partnerships being one of those things where you can see where they're coming from. The only problem is we can see where Jagex is coming from. Sometimes it feels like they can't see where we're coming from. And I know a
yeah.
lot of it isn't like the people that we are railing against. And that's the other thing is a lot of times it's we're shooting the messenger here because it's not really like the people who go on the Q&A stuff. Mond West isn't the guy sitting there in corporate meetings going, you know what this team really needs? Some extra resources through microtransactions. Let's do it, guys. Like, clearly, they have to, the corporate side of things has to figure out new revenue ways. I just wish they would be cognizant enough themselves to realize that this would have been a bad idea instead of having either the JMod team tell them or watching the community pushback. And I'm sure there are going to be JMods who go into that meeting and say, look at all this backlash. This is going to kill the game. And, maybe that worked and maybe they listened. But even like the post that they wrote seemed really ingenuine, seemed really harsh. It
Yeah.
feels like they didn't, realize why this was a big thing for us, especially because the thing with RuneScape is the value is all emotional. Nobody cares about a bunch of numbers that say 13 million experience, except for yourself and everyone else who values that grind and values that commitment. So if you do anything, it's the same reason why, we have so many people voting no against warding because they don't want their max capes taken away, etc. I think warding is good for the game. There's another segue opportunity for you, by the way, down the line, but warding is good for the game, but you can see with every change that they make that remove some of the value from these players, the shine of RuneScape and what makes it such a special game is gone. Because that was the big thing is you decide what you want to do in the game. Like for me, I'm all about the pets at the moment. I'm on a pet hunt. I'm on an untradeable hunt. But someone else could just want to get 99 woodcutting. And they could look at me and say, that's a stupid goal. And I could say 99 woodcutting is a stupid goal. And ultimately, none of it matters because the universe is going to blow up one day. And that's really nihilistic.
But I mean, it's true, right? You look at the people who are
Yeah,
grinding out 200 million experience. I sit there and I say, like, what's the point? But then, like, my girlfriend, she comes down and is like, what's the point in playing this game at all? What's the point of us sitting down and recording this little podcast thingy? You know what I mean? But it's just like you could say that about anything. But I guess
that
that
is
if you care about it, then it's like then it matters, right?
exactly. That is a really, really deep dive into some human cognition. God damn.
We're going
But
down deep. Like I might think it's bizarre to get 200 mil experience, but at the same time, like, I mean, I guess I can get it because I care about getting 99, or like you care about getting pets, so they might think the same thing about, well, why do you care about getting pets, right?
yeah, why do you care about going into the crafting guild? Why do I care about going into the cooking guild? It's just
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that's the big thing is the new content that they come out with has to give value to the game in a way that makes people want to achieve those goals instead of making people feel like their goals are diminished. And that was the big thing with RS3. And I just read a post today by somebody, I think on the Reddit, that was talking about how he left RS3 midway through, like trying to get 120 Slayer or whatever they have, because they kept coming out with microtransactions, and with every update, it lowered the grind for him. and it made the ceiling that much lower. But not only that, but it made him question, like, what's the point? And I remember the day I fell out of love with RS3 was when I realized I was just progressively getting dumbed down content. And I just said, all I'm doing is clicking shit. I'm going to like RuneSpan, because I tried going back into the game when it came out, and I was like, I'm just clicking shit. Then I go to chop like ivy for woodcutting, and I'm just clicking shit. And I guess that's what RuneScape is, but it's the enjoyment out of seeing, you know, that grind, and the enjoyment, really, to segue this back. That's how you do a segue. It's being able to share the accomplishments and those clicks with other people and say, look, guys, I did this. I clicked X this many times, and this is what I got out of it. I got this beaver following me. I got this. Well, there's no cooking pet, is there?
Right? No, not yet.
I got this frying pan following me. I got
Sweet.
a mini Gordon Ramsay binging with Babish.
Yelling at me.
He should make an OSRS episode. Can you imagine? Just a giant shark.
That'd be sick.
Flashing on the table.
I would be 100% down. Yeah, microtransactions is a real tricky part, and I think you make some pretty good points there. And it's hard because, I mean, I can, on a base level, I can understand why they bring microtransaction is. I really understand it when I play mobile games, and mobile games are the worst for it. But I'm not so much now, but I used to be like not involved, but I'd be on like mobile gaming subreddits, and I'd be on these like Discords where people, like developers who create their own mobile game, and they push it out, and they'll like, hey guys, check out my new game. And you would see quite like they'd bring out a good game, but then the game would fail because they slapped a $2 price tag on it because they need to make money somehow.
Yeah.
And because that $2, people were like, no, I don't really want to spend it. And it's hard to do it. But then, so they're like, okay, you know what? We'll make it free, but we'll add microtransactions. And then it kind of snowballs. And then it's kind of like RuneScape 3 where people don't find value in their goals.
No, yeah, 100%. Because, I mean, there have been studies that showed, like, it's not even the act of paying. It's not saying, oh, it's $1 out of my pocket. It's literally people, like, don't want to reach for their credit card and put in the credit card details. Like, it's a matter of, like, oh, I can't be screwed for this. I can't be asked. You know?
Yeah. And it's weird because I'll go out and buy a coffee, and sometimes I'll be like, you know what? I'll get a cookie too. And I'm not even really feeling the cookie. And there you go. There's an extra $3 added on to my bill.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I don't want to, be negative and say, oh, this game's, all doom and gloom. I just think they keep talking about, trying to make RuneScape more friendly to a wider audience and try to like retain more people. A lot of like the new player experience blog was about, making the game more friendly and more approachable so that you don't lose what makes it special, but it helps new players capture that feeling and realize what OSRS is special for. But I think there's so much that needs to be addressed that they can address that improves the long-term health of the game while they still can help the new player experience at the same time. Like there's so many obvious like little changes that can help both long-term players and like newbie people who just like downloaded it off of the app store or whatever.
Yeah, I think that it makes a lot of sense. And sorry, I totally lost my train of thought.
No, you're good.
God, I just had a massive brain fart. I don't know if it's because I was tired at work today or something, but
yeah, I'm talking your head off here. It's we were talking about warding and microtransactions, partnerships, not being the people to bring in doom and gloom.
Oh, sorry, I remember now. I just when this whole fiasco happened, I did it opened my eyes to like, it is kind of surprising, even though people like, it was cool to see the community push back so much on partnerships, even though, okay, the partnerships might have not been that big of a deal, but people were worried about what's next. But I thought it was cool because I can't think of any other MMORPG game that doesn't have microtransactions except for old school RuneScape. I'm sure there's some that exist, but I honestly can't think of any.
You know, that's a
Every
good
single one
point.
I play, any game I play, they have some sort.
The only other game that I play that doesn't have microtransactions is ironically No Man's Sky, which is a game that for some reason everyone else seems to hate.
Yeah, and
No
who saw that coming?
microtransactions, free DLC. Yeah. Just
Yeah,
goes to
that's
show
true.
you can never win. Might as well throw microtransactions in there because people still complain, am I right?
Yeah,
It's a joke.
hell yeah, they do.
Jagex, please.
So quick NMS talk. You still playing that game pretty hard?
A little bit. Have you been keeping up with Beyond? NMS Beyond?
A little bit. I know it's coming out, but the big thing that I've heard about it is that the virtual reality it's coming with it.
Yeah, that's gonna be sick.
So I mean, I'll have to get the PC version. See, I wish I had more time to play that game because that game is super immersive, and I loved just ripping around the galaxy. And I don't think we've even had a chance to play together yet. So
We might have hopped on once, I think. I remember we hopped on Apex for a minute, but
okay, yeah.
here's the thing: is I think the way you like approach games, I think we have a really compatible playset. Where it was like when the multiplayer update came out, I just had like a log of planets that my buddy and I would visit, and like I
Mhm.
would log down what we did. Again, being a massive nerd like that, just like today we visited an ice planet, we had to stop off for fuel. Buddy XYZ, whatever his name is, went and collected some of the minerals while I like tried to scan as many creatures as I could for our log, stuff like that. You know, where I just like had a running update for our Discord. I just like keep them updated, and the feedback was always the same. Why the fuck are you sending this? But I enjoyed it.
I mean, it's super useful if you quit for like a few weeks or whatever. Like me, I've been away from the game for a couple months now, and I'm worried to go back into it because I know it's going to be super overwhelming. I'm going to forget where I was in the game.
Yeah, that's the thing is I think the best thing to do is to just hop in with a fresh save and like start all over.
It's so hard because that's the problem. I have all these plans for like my main account, and then it's rough. But you know what? We'll get there when Beyond comes out. I'm probably gonna get sucked back in because it seems like they got some big things going on there.
Oh yeah, and I know you've been into that VR stuff. That's gonna really reel you back in.
It's funny because I was into that pretty hardcore for a few weeks now, but then it's like I got the RuneScape bug again, and then I put it down and haven't entirely thought about it too much until like yesterday when I was like, shit, I haven't played it in like a week and a half or 2 weeks because I've just been back on this RuneScape grind.
And now it's the PvP World Iron Man, isn't it?
Yeah, I started that started streaming that.
Atlanticus.
Yeah, which has been nice. Been a nice change of pace from the account, but then I'll be at work and I can play RuneScape while I work. Luckily, it kind of works out that way. And but getting a lot of grinds on my main done too, which is like I just want to get a lot of PvP PVM stuff done, and then with Last Man Standing beta was out, I was doing that a bunch on my main, but it's kind of good because I can bring this around because we didn't really get into it. On like when you're playing RuneScape, what is it that you like to do the most? Like between like PvP or PVM or skilling or
well, right now I'm really big into PVM. Like my account is very PVM based, I guess. I love doing raids. I teach raids to a bunch of my buddies. I like teaching raids in my spare time.
Is this all raids or just Chambers of Xeric?
Well, I would say I'm only qualified to teach Chambers, but I've been teaching them like Theater of Blood.
No, nice.
Informally, I guess.
off the books.
Well, yeah, I guess a little bit, but it's more like, listen, guys, I'm not the best at this. Remember, I'm still like trying to learn all the advanced techniques and stuff, but I can like show you guys the basics and at least have you guys hop in. And it's been really nice because just like now it's a bunch of buddies and they keep hitting me up for Theater of Blood, and now it's being able to relive that same experience in Chambers of Xeric, but everyone's higher level, everyone like knows a little bit more.
Yeah, okay.
So, it's nice to see.
That sounds like fun.
Yeah,
You'll have to show me. You gotta show me the loops.
Yeah. always. And again, like always happy to teach like regular raids. I do a lot of challenge modes now, but regular raids I'm still happy to do. It's always really fun. But
So
after
rating's
that,
your favorite thing right now in RuneScape?
well, you know what's funny is you guys were the people who like indirectly got me into raids, because what got me into raids was when I came back to old school. This account is still pretty new, relatively speaking, but when I came back, I needed a podcast to listen to last year while I was like doing the agility grind, getting a torso, doing desert treasure, all that fun stuff.
Oh
And
yeah.
I remember you guys were talking about raids. Deegan would talk about like doing solos, and you would talk about being a sherpa, if you remember. And I was like, damn, that sounds like really awesome content. And yeah, I had like a really bad first experience, I would say. The people who took me, and I just remember saying, I want to not have that happen to people who want to learn raids. I want to help people if they want to learn and enjoy it. I want them to be able to go in and out and say, I enjoyed myself here. So if I can do that, then I should be doing that, in my opinion. Like, only spread the love.
Cool. So it's like the I guess the Sherpa lifestyle that you enjoy the most with raiding.
Yeah, mentoring, yeah, I guess.
Yeah, the Sherpa comes from, that's what they used to call them in Destiny, when you have what is it? You have a group of 5 people and one person would be the experienced one and he'd be the Sherpa of the group, teaching everyone
Yeah,
else.
it's fun.
But
I mean, it's like really fun to do, whether it's people and friends you can kick back with, or just like random people, because then it's the fun element of figuring out how to connect with people when you've never met them before.
yeah, that's true. And it's yeah, I almost want to say like the most fun I have is when I'm teaching a raid for the most part. Like I usually tend to enjoy those more than just speed runs.
Yeah.
So that's
How about yourself? What are your goals? What are your goals PvP world beyond? Is it just the Iron Man for now, or do you have any main goals as well?
I don't really know on the main because I constantly like have like, oh, it'd be nice to go to the Inferno one day. Theater of Blood would be great, but I know I'm kind of I could do Theater of Blood. I think I just have it in my head that I need more money. Honestly, I have no idea. It's like I don't really have any solid goals on my main at the moment. Nothing that I'm super motivated to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I tend to go on there and I'm skilling and kind of doing my elite diaries because that's just a goal I wanted to do. Because it's kind of like you. Like I like hunting pets.
Yeah.
So like I have a Calphite task and I want to have my desert elites done so that I don't need to use the ropes. I think,
Do you
right?
have
That's
that
what it
already?
does. I don't have it yet, but I need to get that's what I'm kind of working on.
Oh yeah, best of luck.
Yeah, I have the Slayer task. So every now and then I'll get on and I'll kill it a few times to try to get the head. Taking it nice and slow.
I wouldn't
But
touch
the
that shit with a 10-foot pole myself, dude.
yeah,
So
it's
all the props to you. It's tough as hell.
yeah. Well, I'll get on. I'll do like 2 or 3 kills and then I get off and go do something else. But I think I just need the hardcore Iron Man that I'm playing in PvP Worlds is it's a nice change of pace and it's kind of what got me excited to play RuneScape again because I was getting kind of burnt out. So I have been playing my main more, but I haven't been doing much PVM besides like Calphite Queen.
Yeah.
But I think if I just keep playing my hardcore Iron Man more, it'll get me more excited to keep playing RuneScape while also make me start craving to do group content. You know what I mean? Like,
Well, if you want to hop in it's not even next Thursday. Damn, it's this week. It's in 2 days' time. If you want to hop in, we can do the gauntlet together. Or not the gauntlet, but we'll do the quest together. We'll try and figure out
let's
where the
do it.
hell we're going.
I plan to be doing it. Well, I plan on to be doing it like as soon as I want to say as soon as I wake up. Well, I mean I could. I don't know. It depends how early I can do that, but I plan on doing it for most of the day. So totally down
100%.
for that. And yeah, I don't know. Like RuneScape's always more fun in a group. Well, for now, I'm on the skilling grind, which I guess leads us to like the next big question: warding. Yes, yay or nay, and why or why not?
Yes, because I agree with the concept, and to me, that's it. Like, everybody keeps saying if you like warding, blah blah blah, vote yes. If you XYZ, and they're trying to make it complicated. Where I've always said, if you like the concept, vote yes. If you don't like the concept, vote no. If you like the concept but don't like some of the items, vote yes to the skill and vote no to those items. And if you like the concept but don't like some of the stuff around it, like the gameplay loop, which is a valid argument, then vote yes to the concept and give them feedback in the beta and make sure that you get your voice heard. And that's the only thing that will get the right content out there. I think the polling system is really bad when it comes to getting nuanced opinions like that out there, though. But for me, warding fills a hole in the gameplay cycle. I think if you look at the history of RuneScape, if you look at what's called the golden age of RuneScape, which is like that 2003 to 2005 era, not
Sure,
just,
okay.
We have a lot of people coming back who, played later on from there. But if you look at, when the game was growing the fastest rate and when a lot of the quote unquote old timers would say it was the best moment, it was that 2-year period. And if you look back, that is the period where that is the period that's most concentrated with new skills. They were coming out with construction, agility, slayer, hunter. And I don't think that's a coincidence because it kept the game fresh and it gave people new things to do. I think the problem now they're having is trying to find a way to introduce a new skill to an audience that is tired of doing the same old click and grind. And that's the only criticism of wording that I personally agree with, which is we don't need another AFK Bible. We don't need another skill that you bank stand. There's enough of them in the game. It adds nothing. It's just not fun. And that's the big challenge, is how do you make warding fun? And it's not by adding stuff that's from divination or whatever. I think that's the challenge of finding out ways to make it a fun skill to train, the way Slayer is a fun skill to train, the way Dungeoneering was a fun skill to train for many people, the way Summoning was a fun... No, I'm just kidding. Take that out. I'll get flamed. But, they just need to find new ways of keeping the game fresh, and skills are one of the best ways to do that. I think it makes sense. I think a lot of the armors are kind of useless, though, because they need to change the way monsters and magic defense work if any of the armors need to be viable, because nobody's going to wear armor if you can just wear full bandos and still do barrows perfectly. That's the big thing, is when people go to do barrows, you're not going to say wear the new Soulbark armor. You're just going to say wear barrows melee gear, because you're going to still, your mage bonus won't be low enough to splash, and that's all that matters. So until they tweak the mage defense of monsters and make it so that they need to find a way to make magic viable without being expensive, but without making it so that you can just mage everything in your rune armor. That's the big issue that they need to address, in my opinion. And it goes back to the whole thing of there are some fundamental things that Jagex need to address before they do certain changes, big time changes. And sometimes it feels like they miss the forest for the trees, and they don't realize that they don't have the foundations. The game isn't in a place where you can put this game with this update in a healthy way, because the mechanics behind magic defense are so wacky that there's no point adding a new magic armor, because nobody needs magic armor until you get to ancestral anyway, technically, until you start doing raids.
Really interesting, actually. I never really thought of that viewpoint. I just never thought of that being an issue, and now that you mention it, that does make a lot of sense.
So again, that's my opinion. Is I disagree with some of the things behind warding, but I agree with it as a concept. So I voted yes. I voted no for certain things. I voted no for the rune pouch. I think that would be a pretty big change that would be bad for the game, ultimately, to have 4 runes in your rune pouch for a bunch of content. But
it's tricky.
Again, that's my opinion. I don't want to sway anyone, because the idea is, if you like the update or you like the idea and the concept, then you should vote yes, and then check the betas, do everything. I like the fact that they're going to beta test it. I hope to God they realize that they shouldn't just make it an AFKable but I think they're already on the right path. That being said, thanks for coming to my TED Talk. How about you? Were you a yay or a nay?
You know what? I kind of I had the same feelings as you did, but they're a lot more dumbed down. They're a lot more basic. I was, the skill seems like your traditional skill. And I did vote yes on warding, kind of the same thing, but a lot of the rewards I voted no to. I did like the armors, but now that you mention it, I guess they might be flawed just in the fact of how RuneScape is and how they've built all these things up, I guess. But warding seemed like it would fit in RuneScape, like it does. There's not many mage gear you have, and we talked on a podcast about the Din's Bulwark, and that there's a big uproar about it.
Oh yeah,
because PKers find it's too hard to land freezes and also kill your opponent before the freeze even lets up, which I mean I can totally see. I went out and tested it this week, and this thing's super, like I never got close to getting PK'd once, and I would just sit there and I felt bad, I guess. But I think the problem was less about Dins being strong, but it's like you go from Mystics to Arums. It's like 100k all the way up to 3 mil or more.
But here's the thing is, I mean, the whole concept of the wilderness is you should be risking the max gear if you want to get somebody in max tank gear. And that's another question of, I don't like the way you protect items in the wilderness. I think it leads to issues like this. And I think, again, going back to the whole Jagex, like, put band-aids on things and they don't really address the issue. The fundamental issue, the band-aid they're applying on the Din's Bulwark doesn't address the fundamental issue of the way the wilderness works, the way risking gear works, doesn't really help the idea of risk versus reward. Whereas if, let's say, okay, you can bring in your Din's Bulwark, but if you die, you keep your +1 or whatever, but you still have to pay like 10% of everything you lose to recover it. Something like that, where it's not just about the item that you choose to protect. So now people can't say, okay, I'm bringing in 3 really, really powerful weapons to PVM in the wilderness with, and then I'm not even going to worry about how much I'm risking because they're always going to be safe. And then it's the same thing with PKers who, have a +1 item of like Dragon Claws or something, and it's like a free ride to have a really strong weapon in their arsenal, but then the rest of their gears, like you said, 10k robes and stuff. Whereas if you made it so that when you die, maybe it also acts as a gold sink where you die in the wilderness and let's say you can keep your gear or something. You don't drop your gear, you drop like a key, or you drop a certain amount of coins based on how much you have on you, but your gear is broken, and to reclaim it, 100k chest meme, yeah, all that fun content. That's not a recycled idea at all, Jagex. But instead of paying 100k, obviously, to get your items back, you have to pay a percentage of everything that you died with. And then the difference in coins is also going to act as a gold sink. So let's say I PK you and you're in 5 mil worth gear. You have to pay 3 mil to get it back. And I make 2 mil profit, or I get a 2 mil coin drop. We just got 1 mil out of the game. But then now there's an incentive. Now it's not like, oh, I lost all my gear, I have to go rebuy everything, etc. Now it's just a matter of, okay, I'm willing to risk this much, and it doesn't matter if I have a +1. It doesn't matter if I have my protect item on, etc. And maybe they rework protect item, make it so that if you get smited and you don't have protect item on, you have to pay a bigger percentage or something. But just like an idea off the top of my head to kind of address that issue, which is the point I'm trying to make, is that there are some issues that stop the game from progressing because Jagex keep trying to address the superficial layer, I guess, without turning this really philosophical, when really it's like, yes, warding fills a hole, but the hole is there is no magic armor. Why is there no magic armor? Instead of saying why, instead of asking themselves that question, they just try and find a way to stuff magic armor in the game, when really the reason why we don't have warding in the game yet is because we have no need for new magic armor because of the way armor works in the game.
Yeah, it's a fair point. And yeah, like going back to when we were talking about warding and whether it should fit, it does seem like a skill that does fit. But as you mentioned, do we really need another AFKable or a buyable skill, or a skill you're just going to grind out? Like you mentioned Dungeoneering and Slayer being the two skills that people enjoy training. Are there any other skills for you, at least, that you actually have a fun time doing?
Well, there are some skills that are relaxing to train, I guess.
Yeah.
The problem is, when this game came out, it's an 18-year-old going on 19-year-old point-and-click adventure game. A lot of the gameplay is really simple, and that's why, like, the big thing for everyone seems to be PVM, because it's a way to make the game spicier. I wish there were more fun ways to train the skills that we have without, breaking EHP. So just make it so that you can train woodcutting and you'd get more XP per hour than chopping teaks, but less than if you two-tick them or something. But you'd, like, not really fight a woodcutting boss or something, but just, like, let's say you do a Karamja Savannah expedition with a bunch of buddies and you have to chop through the thickets and stuff and try to, like, find fruit for some weird dude. Let's do Sheep Herder 3 and change it so that you have to spin a bunch of flax or whatever with friends. I don't know. For me, another fun skill, sad to say, fire making. I don't mind training at Wintertot because it does have those new fun elements.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily the fact that I'm killing a boss, but it's not as repetitive.
That's true. And it's nice to get that loot crate at the end, but, like, getting the reward and you doing it in a group with other people, and people joke saying how bad the public chat is in Wintertot, but it exists. So that's nice, right?
Yeah, even Pyramid Plunder. I love training thieving. It was my first 99. It's still, I think, my only skilling 99 because I love Pyramid Plunder so much that it was fun. And I wish they would go back and revisit things like Pyramid Plunder and revisit Trouble Brewing. Make it so that mini games are an efficient way to skill, maybe. And then you bring people in not just for the rewards and cosmetics, but maybe because it's a good way to train, good XP per hour. Maybe it's not the best XP per hour. It doesn't have to be, as long as it's fun.
Yeah, that's cool. Actually, I would be on board with that because, yeah, a lot of skills. I think of them as being satisfying to train, but not many are very fun. Which is kind of
exactly.
I don't know, if you're gonna bring in a new skill. It's hard to do, right? There's a reason why most skills aren't fun, and I say fun like you're not sitting down like, woo, this is like if you're farming or what's a skill that people love to do? Mining, crafting, thieving. Like, you enjoy the Pyramid Plunder, but I used to enjoy it, and I went back and tried it now, and I was like, it's okay. After like 30-40 minutes, I'm like, wish this was AFK so that I could, like, at least talk to people in the clan chat, or I could, like, I don't know, be more social. But you're having to, like, play the whole time. I don't know.
I'm going to tie a bow around this whole conversation, bring it right back to the start, and say the reason why I like Pyramid Plunder is because my favorite thing to do was to do it with two buddies, because it's actually better, because that way you find the doors faster. But also you can just sit there and chill and have that social element that we were talking about at the beginning, which is that, RuneScape is an MMO.
Yeah.
And I think the big difference is that PVM you can do with friends. You can do bandos with buddies on Discord. I watched a couple guys in the Discord go to DKs for the first time. I still I don't talk too much in our Discord, but I like to keep an eye on things. And somebody just went to their first bandos and DKs trip and stuff. And the difference is with skilling, you're not really doing shit for that. You're not really interacting with anyone else in the game, except in Wintertot, except maybe in Pyramid Plunder. Those are the skills I found were fun to train.
Yeah, okay. That's
and
fair.
I think, yeah.
And Volcano we might see that might be the start of a new trend.
Hopefully, yeah. Hopefully it continues the little foundation that they lay with things like Wintertot and Volcanic Mine, I guess. And like you said, it starts a new approach when it comes to skilling updates, because there needs to be new ways of training. I just wish that they would spend a good 6 months looking at all the mini games and modernizing them to where fishing trawler did not suck ass to do.
Yeah.
That's all I want. I want the mini games that you brought in when when Jagex introduced the first mini game and they said this is a game within a game, which means it's going to be doubly as fun. I think that's how math works. Or is it squared? I don't know. But no, it's not. It's actually the least fun thing you can do is sit there plugging holes. And then you go into Motherlode Mine, you have some dwarf asshole telling you how much to mine and shit, and then you wonder why people hate skilling.
Yeah, that's a good point. And it might be I don't know, that's something I could get behind, having more group activities or even having an overhaul. Like next at RuneFest, they approach and they go, you know what, we're gonna overhaul, all the shitty mini games.
Microtransactions.
Yeah, you got to pay money, but hey, guess what? It'll be worth it. So that's it's awesome. Well, anyways, that was a perfect way to round off the conversation. I think. Is there anything you want to say before we get out of here?
I guess follow the Wilderness Podcast on Twitter. I don't know. Shit, I'm trying to plug you guys. I don't have a Twitter. I don't have anything that I really have to plug, so I
Nothing
guess
for you to plug. Do you have like a clan chat or like a Discord server you manage that you want to throw out there?
I actually just started a Discord. Feel free to, if you want to join, if anybody wants to join, it's just a place to chill. I don't want to take people away from the Wilds EC or anything, so it's not really a clan. It's just a place where you can chill. You can hit me up for that, but also, I guess, just a reminder to keep on enjoying the grind to everybody, I guess, who listens to this eventually, if you decide to put this god-awful piece of content out there.
Keep on keeping on.
I haven't talked your head off by now.
Hey, it was good. I think we rounded off a lot of things. I think this is I had fun. So I think that says enough about being a good first episode of this new
100%
piece of content. And it only took me almost a year to get it out because last August is when I'm like, I want to start doing this.
That's progress, though.
Yeah, eventually we rounded around. So,
you know what they say in Japan: the best time to plant a tree was yesterday. The second best time is today.
That's beautiful. Let's just end it right there. So, thanks, Magpie, for jumping on. This was fun. We'll have to do this again.
Thanks for having me. Of course, 100%. I need to stop saying that.
Hope you enjoyed the first episode of our OSRS Rambles with my special guest, Magpie. I had a lot of fun recording this. And thank you, Magpie, for taking some time out of your schedule to be able to sit down and talk with me. We're definitely going to have to do this again. And thank you to our Patreon supporters. If you would like to get this episode early, you can do so by signing up on Patreon at patreon.com/thewildernesspodcast. And if you would like to be a guest or you know someone who would make an interesting guest or any suggestions whatsoever, the best place to send that in is thewildernesspodcast@gmail.com. But you can also find us on Facebook and Twitter. Or if you're already in our Discord, you can shoot me a message, but email is the best way. Thanks everyone for listening, and thank you for all the support we've been getting over the years. You guys have been the best. Until next time.